everybody and welcome back to Frankie's Aquatics right here on the wonderful platform that is YouTube. So this week's video is going to be a guide of everything you're going to need to own and care for an axolotl. There's going to be some absolutely essential things on this list and there's going to be some things that are optional, but we're going to talk about both and we're going to combine the two. So without further ado, sit back and let's get ready for this week's video. Let's go! So the first thing you're going to need is quite obvious. You're going to need a tank. You're going to need something to house your axolotl. Now, people always the questions that get asked the most is tank size. What tank size do we need? Do we need this? Do we need that? But it's always the first one, tank size. Now, I'm not going to give you a specific size to tank that you're going to have to abide by because you can bend the rules slightly each way. So what I will say to you is bigger is always better. I live in a fairly good sized house. If you give me a castle, I'm going to march around in it quite proudly. So the bigger the tank, the happier the axolotl. Now, what you need to remember is that although they do swim, they do spend most of the time on the bottom of the tank. So try and find something that's got more width and depth rather than height. Whoopah! Second thing you're going to absolutely need is going to be a filter. I personally use air filters on all my systems. I only quite recently switched to them, to be honest. I used to have canister filters and internal filters in all of my tanks. And then obviously as my collection grew over the years, I thought, what's the best way and the cheapest way, more efficient way to power so many tanks? I needed to find a cheaper alternative to filtering tanks. Now, I always recommend sponge filters that are powered by air pumps. This is because you can run more than one filter off that one pump. So it equivalates, is that even a word? Equivalates. I don't think that's even a word. I'm going to use it anyway. It equivalates to one plug. I use the biggest range of air pump that Tetra currently provide. It's of Nay size, probably about this big, and it comfortably powers these 6 tanks behind me. I think in all honesty it could easily power more. It's just that at the moment I don't need it to power anymore. I have these working quite nicely behind me on that one pump. This is the pump here. You can pick it up on Amazon. It tends to go on offer quite a lot, I've noticed. I think it varies. I think the highest I've ever seen it was £42. And the cheapest I've ever seen it was £28, something like that. So keep your eye on Amazon and other places because you will find it at a really good price. And when you do find it, snap one up. Obviously, if you're just filtering one tank or maybe 2 tanks, you won't need a massive air pump. The smaller options will obviously work just as well. Again, Tetra do a really good range of silent pumps. They're not completely silent, but if you listen, that gentle hum, not that squeaky floorboard, the gentle hum, that is pretty much all you're going to get in regards to noise. Because a lot of people are like, I don't really want the humming noise coming from an air filter. But you can buy silent ones. They're not exactly silent, but that's all you're going to have to contend with. So I personally recommend them. I actually have them in my bedroom as well, because upstairs I keep betters and I also keep the babies up there as well. Baby axolotls, which again will be filtered in time too. So yeah, I recommend sponge filters. Although they're not the only option, of course, you have got things like canister filters and internal filters, the ones that hang on the back of your tanks. You've got the ones that kind of sit inside of your tanks. There's many out there, but if you want my recommendation, I will always recommend sponge filters that are powered by an air pump. Next up, you're going to need something to condition and treat your water. This is a tip that I always give out to people, and I guess some people just either don't know about it or choose to kind of turn a blind eye to it. But you're going to have to condition the water. If you're pulling the water directly from a tap, your water mains, you're going to have to condition the water because the water within your pipework is made safe for human consumption. It's pumped through with very all different, depending on where you are in the world, it's pumped with all different sort of chemicals to make it safe for human consumption so you can drink it and it's not going to cause you any troubles. But unfortunately the same doesn't apply for our aquatic animals, so you do need to add a water conditioner to remove the chlorine and any other nasties that might be hiding. It basically kills off all the bacteria that could prove harmful to your axolotls and any other aquatic animal for that matter. So please be smart, don't cut this corner. You might think, well, I've been doing it for 3 years and my fish are absolutely fine. Chances are you're probably going to shorten their lifespan. You have to use some form of conditioner. There is many out there. They all pretty much do the same thing, but you're definitely, absolutely going to need some sort of conditioner. I'm currently using the Fluval range at the moment. I am switching back to Tetra, so I've just literally subscribed to that just recently on Amazon, so you can get massive 5 litre tubs of it for something like, I think it's £17–18 every however many months you want it. So I'm switching back to that because it's the cheaper option for me. But yeah, just be smart and make sure you definitely check in that you're conditioning your water. Another thing you're going to need for your axolotl is a way of keeping the temperatures down. The axolotls prefer cold water, so that's something you have to consider when your weather and the summer kicks in and the heat waves kick in. You've got to think outside of the box on how you're going to absolutely maintain the cold temperatures. There are a few ways of doing this, of course. I've done a video on this actually, which I'll pop up here. I'll put the picture up here. I won't put the link here because I don't quite know how to do that. But I'll pop the link below, but here's the image. I'll pop the link below. And basically there's a few tried and tested tips that I've tried out myself over the years that I've found that work really, really helpful. The easiest way of doing it personally, in my opinion, is to change out a percentage of the water with cold water. It might not last very long. It might last you a day or two. And you might consistently feel like you're constantly messing around with the water. But if that's the only way of keeping your tank temperatures low, then that's probably the best way to do it. There is obviously, you've got things like aquarium fans that you can purchase. I've tried these myself. I have a bit hit and miss kind of luck with them. I think sometimes if the room's warm, all you're really doing is blowing warm air into your aquarium because the humidity and the heat in the room is so high. The fan, that little fan, is not going to do enough to produce cold air to blow at your aquarium. Some people swear by them. Some people have really good success with them. But me personally, I tend to find that the water change is my better option for me anyway, personally. You can buy aquarium chillers, but just bear in mind, I have mentioned this in previous videos, just bear in mind they're very expensive and they're really noisy as well. They basically sound like a little tractor. I mean, I guess there is better models out there in the market at the right sort of prices, but they are quite expensive and they do produce quite a loud hum. It's almost like a drilling noise, like, do you like the effects lot? It's that sort of a noise, so just be prepared. If you think, you know what, I've got a bit of spare money, I'm going to buy myself a chiller, just be prepared. At least go and see the item that you're buying in use, or Google it, or YouTube it. Because chances are it's going to produce quite the noise. I mean, when you do, I tend to find a lot of people as well, kind of watch a video, and they go, oh, it was alright, I didn't hear much noise in that video. No, it'll be fine, whether it be a filter, whether it be a chiller, and they get the product home in their nice quiet room, and then they plug it in, and then it's like, whoa, that's a bit much. It wasn't like it's on YouTube. And then they go back and watch the YouTube video that recommended it, and they find that the YouTube video was already in a noisy room. It's like this sort of a noise, maybe. So the noise from the actual product they've just bought probably wasn't that bad, and now they're greeted by this horrible noise. So just be aware that a lot of these products that do help keep the temperatures down, i.e. a chiller, will produce quite the noise. Just be aware of that. You're going to also need a regular food source for your axolotl. Obviously, the easiest option is pellets. You can buy pellets online. They're not that expensive. You can buy them in quite large quantities, and your axolotl will happily eat those. Although I don't recommend you do that solely. You shouldn't just feed one sort of food to any animal, really. I think variety is key. I mean, I like chicken. But if I had to live on chicken for the rest of my life, I get a bit bored of it. So occasionally I'll have a pizza or a cheeseburger or something equally as nice. So definitely variety is definitely key. So switch it up. So for example, you're going to need some sort of live food source, especially when they get older. So for example, you're going to need earthworms, or night crawlers as some people call them. You're going to need earthworms. You can feed you can feed bloodworm, but only as a treat on occasion, because I've mentioned this before, it doesn't really do much for an adult axolotl really. You have to eat quite a substantial amount of it in order to fill the axolotl up, because they're quite small and don't really do the job. And then you can feed things like, I believe people feed feeder fish. Again, I've got no experience with that, nor will I ever want to have any experience with that, because me personally, I don't feel the need for it. I don't feel the axolotl needs them. They'll quite happily live on pellets and earthworms as a staple part of their diet. Some people feed some sorts of shrimp. Again, I can't really give you an opinion. I can't tell you not to do it, because I know many people do and have great success with it. But for me personally, I can't recommend that because I've never done it myself. So for me, you're going to need a good equal food source. So preferably earthworms when they get older. And when they're little, you're going to need brine shrimp if they're getting from a little tiny baby. Brine shrimp and frozen bloodworm. And then the optional stuff is how you decorate your tank. Just bear in mind, anything that will fit inside of the axolotl's mouth, there's a very good chance that the axolotl will try and fit it inside of its mouth. So if you're putting nice fancy pebbles in there, or you're putting gravel in there, then just be aware. Again, the substrate is optional too. That's why I've not kind of mentioned that in previous. It is definitely optional. As you can see, my tanks currently have sand in all of my tanks. I got it at a really good price, so I thought, you know what, I'll give it a go. Do I prefer it to a bottomless tank? Probably not, really. I don't really know. I mean, the axolotl seem happy enough on it. It's of a very fine substance, so if they do swallow it, it's going to cause no problems or any kind of compaction problems, or not compaction, impaction. It's going to cause no problems on that sort of front, but it's personal preference. I think it makes it look more finished and more complete. I mean, that is a very basic tank, so it's only a grow out tank. But substrate is completely optional. Sand, if you're going to use a sand, make sure it's of a fine substance, so you're not going to cause any blockages or any problems if any of it is swallowed during feeding. Don't use gravel. I don't recommend. I've had so many people go, I've got a gravel, but it's really fine. Do you reckon it'll be okay? And I always say no. I wouldn't run the risk. I really wouldn't. It's almost like giving a toddler a shotgun to play with a safety catch on. Going, yeah, it's only a shotgun. Well, don't worry, it's safety catches on. It's kind of like, would you do it? Would you go, here you go, play with this? And then the little boy just sat there with a shotgun. Like, you wouldn't, would you? So don't. It's a bit of an extreme comparison there, granted. But don't run the risk. If there is a chance of that causing a problem to your axolotl, then personally I wouldn't go near it with a barge pole. I won't go near it with a 10-foot barge pole. Don't know what that means, but just don't do it. If you're going to use a substrate, just make sure you're sensible about what you're using. Other things you can use as well is hides, however you decorate your tanks. I will show you some footage of the tanks in a moment. Hello Marcel, how are we doing, little chap? So yeah, this is probably the most basic tank that I have set up for my axolotls, minus the babies that are obviously kept upstairs. So obviously a filter. The light, I don't always have the light, and I normally have it on in the evening. I do dim them down if you look. They have got a dimmer, like a cover on them, so it's not constantly bright. I've had that on full, just to be lit up like the sunshine was in there. Obviously axolotls are very sensitive to light, so everybody has to take into consideration in regards to looking after these little guys. So, hello Holly. Hello baby. So yeah, anyway, getting distracted. That's probably the most basic setup you can have. They did used to have some leaves in here, but I tend to find they didn't really bother with them, and it made it a little bit problematic when it came to cleaning, because these guys are quite messy. So I've taken them out, and I've just kept in there. Obviously the filter has to be in there. You have to have some sort of filter. Hello. A jar, because again they seem to absolutely adore jars, and it helps with water change as well. And some sort of hide and somewhere for them to perch on. They absolutely love this, and they're doing really, really well. As you can see, they're a little bit miffed because I've just put the lights on. What we'll do is we'll look directly below at the next tank. So here is the next tank, which is still fairly basic, I suppose. Obviously filter. I've got some artificial leaves at the top. They're actual reptile leaves actually for, I think they're Exoterra. I leave them floating at the top. I think they're attached to the back of the glass. I'm not too sure, but I'm pretty sure they're attached somewhere with the suction cup. Again, glass jar, and then this hide. I do like these hides. These are Exoterra, just the small hides that they do. I like to keep them there because little chap over here does tend to like using them. Over there. There's Buddy at the back. So yeah, again, a slightly more advanced way of keeping axolotl tank set up and happy. And then directly below again, it's the same sort of format. Obviously we've got sand in this one. Exoterra leaves, a nice big hide there. This is one of the most funkiest hides I've ever seen, and Pixel absolutely adores it. The jar, again, because it works good as a hide, they like to climb on it, and it also works well with water change filter. And yeah, that's really it. And we've got the same over there for flick. And it's just really easy. It doesn't have to be that complicated. Obviously I could make this look a little bit more funky, and I could really jazz it up, but I'm quite happy with the simplicity of it. Not only that, you'll also find if you hand feed your axolotls, which I always preach at everybody, you will find they'll stay out like they are now, and they'll become really tame. And yeah, it'll make your life a lot easier when it comes to feeding. You can monitor who's getting what, and the axolotls are obviously happy with the interaction too. But as you can see in the video, it's how you want to decorate your tank. People like to use live plants. You can use live plants, just be sensible on what you put in there in case it gets consumed. Make sure it's non-toxic. Make sure it's not going to stand as a choking hazard. Personally, I like to use fake artificial plants, large artificial plants, because they can't really disrupt them too much. They don't really bother with them. They like climbing on them. If it tends to be a live plant, 9 times out of 10 your axolotl will squash it and destroy it completely by accident, just by parking the big backside on it, to be honest. They love sitting on things and they will happily squash them. I also recommend glass jars. I don't know what it is about them, but axolotls seem to love them, really take to them quite well. And just be creative, but just be sensible. Whatever you're putting in there, just make sure it's not going to fit in the axolotl's mouth, even when they're bigger, because you'll be surprised how much they can actually fit in their mouth. I literally almost forgot this bit, and I had to literally turn the camera back on and to get it all set back up again, just to kind of stress the importance of this. You're absolutely, essentially going to need some sort of water test kit. A lot of people, when they ask advice, kind of scratch their head at these, and because there's that many out there on the market and they don't quite know what's best to go for. Now, the easy option, which a lot of people do like, I personally don't like them, I'll tell you as to why in a moment, are water test strips, which are basically little strips. They have little tiny squares on them. You dip them in your water, you take them out, you give it a little bit of a shape like a Polaroid picture, and then you compare the results to the chart that you get given in the pack. Now, the reason I don't like these is many of them don't cover all aspects. You can kind of get a reader for your pH. That's not vitally important when it comes to your water test kit, in my opinion anyway, from experience. The three ones that you absolutely need to test for are ammonia, nitrites and nitrates. They're the three. Now, I won't go about cycling and all that in this video. I am going to do that in a future video. But they're the three that you really need to keep your eye on. And a lot of these test strips either don't test for ammonia or they don't test for nitrates or nitrites. And for me, they're the three essential ones that you can't really afford to miss. So the way around this is to buy an API, not just an API, there's many others out there, but I use the API water test kit. It's just above my head here, but I'll place a picture on here for you. Not that expensive. I think it comes in at about £20. Again, this is another one that kind of varies in price. I think the most I've ever paid for one was £24, £25, and the cheapest I've ever got it for is just over £10. So if you look around online or at your local pet stores, you will find them at quite competitive prices. I like this test kit because you can test pH, you can test water hardness, you can test ammonia, nitrates, nitrites. It covers everything. It's a little bit more advanced. It might be a little bit daunting, but once you get used to playing crazy scientist with the chemicals, you'll absolutely love it. And you'll actually, once you get the idea of how cycling works and the importance of keeping your ammonia, nitrates and nitrite levels on point, you'll actually start to enjoy it, or at least that's how I find it. I find it really enjoyable to know that I can check the waters and my cycle is absolutely on point. It's almost a pat on your own back because it's you as a keeper. They're obviously maintaining the waters in good condition. So high five you. It's all you. High five. And that's pretty much it for this week's video. Thank you all so much for stopping by and checking it out. There is going to be a little bit of a different outro, so do hang fire around for it. Yeah, thank you all for stopping by and checking it out. We're nearly at 1,000 subscribers, which is pretty special because I can then hopefully kind of monetize my videos, which will mean you'll get an advert at the beginning of the video. It doesn't mean very much to most people, but it helps this channel sustain itself and helps me, it'll bring new things to the channel. I'm not expecting to make an absolute fortune on this channel at all, but the little bit of money that it will bring back in through revenue will help obviously progress with better equipment. So for example, right now I'm using a tripod which is currently sat on my kitchen table, which I have to drag in from the kitchen, which is just there. I have to bring my kitchen table in because it hasn't got quite tall enough legs on it. It's going to help obviously buy better equipment. I can buy a circle light, £20–30, so I can obviously have better lighting in the room, because at the moment I'm completely relying on natural light. So yeah, it's not going to affect you guys very much, but it will hopefully improve the quality of the videos throughout the years, because I'm not planning on going anywhere anytime soon. So thank you all so much for your support. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to hit that like button. It just lets me know that you enjoy the content that I'm producing and keeps me on the right track of what you want to see next. Also hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so, and also ding the notification bell. So thank you all so much for stopping by and checking out this week's video, and until next time, ta-ta for now. Woohoo! So usually I do some sort of crazy outro here and kind of like have the whole split mirror screen thing, but I wanted to kind of raise the importance of something. So unless you've been living on another planet or under a complete massive rock, you'd have seen the devastation and the absolute crazy impact of the Australian bushfires. Not only to humans, I've had people lose houses in the blink of an eye. Fire has literally ripped through towns and just destroyed so many houses, homes, people's livelihoods. The wildlife over there is in dire need. There's literally thousands upon thousands of animals that have lost, that have perished to this terrible, terrible disaster. I was going to do an entire video on this, but I didn't really feel I kind of wanted to be too intrusive about how I go about it. I'm not here for the clicks, I'm not here for the likes. I just want to raise awareness and ask you all, if you, anybody, absolutely anybody out there can donate even £1 or a £2, whatever it might be, please make a donation to any of these charities or any of your own. Australia needs us right now, and they're shouting from the rooftops, and I want them to know that the majority of us are listening. It's a dreadful, dreadful thing. I can't even begin to imagine how the animals must feel. I know obviously humans have been impacted by this too, but being an animal lover myself, I can't even comprehend how scary it must be for people like the koalas that obviously to see a fire, their instinct is to run up the trees and hide from it. And unfortunately those very trees that they're running up and hiding are the very trees that are burning down around the feet. It's devastating. There's clips on the internet of koalas grabbing onto cyclists and firefighters, and they're giving them water to drink, and they're just so appreciative. And these are wild animals, bearing in mind. These are not pets. These are wild animals that are absolutely screaming out for our help. I will be making a donation myself at the end of this month, and I encourage you all to do so. Now, I know not everybody can donate. I get that completely. I've been there myself. We're all in a position that we can donate and chuck money at things. But what I will say to you, if you can't donate, just share this video, just continue to raise awareness for this tragedy that's happening. When big things happen in the world, it's very easy to turn a blind eye to it. Probably a terrible term for me to use, being blind in one eye, but hey ho. It's very easy to think, well, that's not happening next door, let's say, that's not happening directly with me. So it's very easy to ignore it, it's very easy to turn over the news, and it's very easy to not pretend it's not happening, but it's very easy, out of sight, out of mind. And I think it's very important that we continue to raise awareness of how serious this matter is, and try our best to help out the animals and the people and everybody else involved that needs this. I don't want to talk politics about this. I don't want to get involved with the whole how they're running it and how they're doing it over there. And there's been a lot of controversy about their presidency. But what I will say is they definitely need our help. So if you can donate absolutely anything, even your time, to help raise awareness for this absolutely diabolical tragedy, then please be sure to do so.